first and foremost, coming off from the last performance to this, there's been a lot of compliments coming into that fight to this one with the shovel and the knockout, things like that. Based off your assessment from that training camp to now, how much more has it, grown and improved from that point?
I don't deserve no credit for the shovel. That's all him.
Okay, touche. Fair.
That's his celebration. I mean, sometimes as a trainer, you need a little while to get a guy to fall into like the language that you use, the technique that you use to get him to buy in. But I didn't really want to change it. I just wanted to just tweak a couple of the things. Obviously, it's real easy to look at flaws. No fight is perfect. So, he was just coming off of a loss to Canelo. So it was like little things that I wanted him to do, with that fight. I just felt like he could have performed a lot better. So this fight, he kind of hit the ground running. This camp was easier to get him in shape because the last camp, took a little while because he hadn't fought in a while and he wasn't used to how I trained. So this camp, when I got here, he was in much better shape. He probably was in maybe like 15 or 20% better shape starting out. So it was easier to get him in shape. He probably could have fought in like the 5th or 6th week of camp. We did a 10-week camp. So he probably could have fought maybe 5 or 6 weeks in. He looked like he was ready to go. So it got better. He understands things that I say now, and like a hook is a hook. You know what I mean? A right hand is a right hand, but it's like little things that you say. So he just like picking up on it. Like, okay, that's what that means. Because everybody he learned how to fight in Tennessee, and I'm from Philadelphia, so. That's pretty much was the only thing. But his style is his style. I didn't want to change that. You just got to just tweak a couple of things, let him identify when a guy is trying to set him up, walk him down, run him into shots, see if he can identify certain things. And that's really it, And then as, and your instincts take over. If you're in the gym every day, when you see little stuff, say, hey, look at that right there. Look what you just did. He films his sparring, so we get to pick that apart. And it's good. It turned out good. But to answer you directly, he was about 15-20% better shape starting out this camp when I first got here than he was the last time. Last time was a little bit concerning. We had to run through the weeds a little bit to get him there, because he always have confidence. I don't think he lacked confidence, but losing and getting stopped, people talk about it. And I think that guys take off too long after they lose, because then it's your last fight, so everybody's always talking about that. You're seeing all the highlights of it, and it's kind of better to get right back in the ring and just get going. So he was off like 11 months, almost a year. So I'm sure that was a little bit of a pain in the butt towards him. But other than that, we was good. But I don't even care about the Darrell fight. That was one fight. I'm not trying to turn him into this super puncher. That's how you lose fights. I don't even talk about that. That fight's over and done with. David Benavidez is a whole different animal, a lot younger. He beat Darrell, so, I like Anthony a lot, but this is a tougher challenge. So I don't even want to get into that fight. We got this another fight. We got to move past that.
How successful were you guys in camp at finding people to spar that brings along the things that David Benavidez,
We were successful. There's little tricks that you can do to get the guy to, like, we can't ever find an exact replica of David Benavidez, or it will be David Benavidez. So we got good enough guys. As you be around the fighter, that's one of the things you learn, what kind of sparring turns them on. Everybody's different when it comes down to that, and there's a certain kind of sparring that turns them on and brings out the best in them. And, we got the guys that we need. You don't need a turkey every day, and you don't need a killer every day where you're fighting for his life, taking too much punishment. You gotta have a happy medium with that, especially when you're bringing guys in and out the ring. So we got what we needed, and we're ready to go.
Just, wanted to kind of ask, because a little related to Caleb, obviously he will want to fight Canelo, or just, another champion and, recapture that throne again. But just as like a fight fan, because I know you're a humongous fight fan as well, Caleb's going, from Canelo to David Benavidez, and I know Canelo claims he had an injury, but he's fighting John Ryder. Is that a little disappointing, just like as a fight fan, that, it's not?
Honestly, I really don't even care. I haven't thought about it. When I first started training him, he told me who he was fighting. So sometimes people act like he was forced into this fight. But like, if you really think about it, how could he have been forced into a fight for an interim title? It's really not. It's really not practical if you really think about it. But he told me, Coach, I'm fighting Anthony Durrell. I know you got experience going against him with your other guy. That's who I'm fighting. I want to get back to the Canelo fight. And if I beat Anthony, I'm going to fight David or Jamal. Or maybe both, but that's what the goal is because I know I got to earn it. And I said, okay. And that was the end of that. So it was either Jamal or David or David and Jamal. I didn't know what the order is. I don't make his fights, but that's what he told me, and that's what happened. You know what I mean? Nothing else happened except for what he said. So I really don't know, all of the other stuff that's said. I'm coming on the team last year, so I don't know about their past history and all that kind of stuff. I really don't have nothing to say about that because I don't know. But I know since I started training him in the summer of last year, that's the opponents that he told me he was going to fight. He didn't even know the order, whether it would be David and Jamal or Jamal and David. But he told me, he's like, I'm paying sanctioning fees to fight Anthony Durrell. So I'm going to fight somebody from the WBC. So if it's David or Jamal move up or Canelo, whatever, but I know Canelo's going to make me earn it to get back to him. So that's what I got to do. And that was just the end of it. It wasn't like, So I didn't expect him to fight Canelo right after fighting Anthony Durrell. I thought he would have to fight a tough challenge in Jamal or David to get to it, or maybe both. I still don't know, you know what I mean? But I knew that that's what we would have to do. So who Canelo fought in the meantime, that's up to him. He's the boss, man. He the big star with 168 pounds, so he could do whatever he wants. I don't really think about that. And more importantly, you can only fight one fight at a time. David Benavidez is the favorite in this fight. It's a real challenge. More people think we're going to lose than think we're going to win. So I'm definitely not thinking about nobody else except dealing with David Benavidez. I mean, Canelo didn't want to fight him. You know what I mean? This is a serious, tough fight. I don't even want to talk about no other fighters except for him.
Well, in the division, like you mentioned, Jamal, obviously that's a huge fight too if it ever happens at 168. But it just seems like, Caleb's been at this weight a long time too. Do you ever think like, man, in the future, this guy's going to be like even better at 175 or anything? Because he spoke a little bit about moving up eventually.
From what my eyes tell me, he's probably a tweener where he could make like 165 or 164, but not make 160.
Gotcha.
He don't have no trouble making weight. He has to eat up to make the weight. I don't know the other guys, like how they are in camp or whatever, but him personally, he don't really have any trouble making the weight. So obviously you're not going to move down, but I don't know if he's going to move up. I can't say that. He seems comfortable making the weight. PBC has, fighters at 168. So I don't know. I just want to concentrate on this one. But he don't have no trouble making weight. He probably makes weight as easy as any guy I've ever had.
Wow. And I had a quick question, just from a coach's perspective, because, and just trying to understand, even for fans, this rehydration thing. I know there's nothing implied in this fight, but Caleb's had like the IBF, and the IBF ruling had like strict next day rehydration clause. So for some hardcore fans to understand, this happens for a specific belt. In other fights, when it happens, I guess I'm just going straight for like the Tank and Ryan. Does rehydration clause and these things really affect fighters like next day?
You know what? I've had guys fight for the IBF belt, and what happens is you weigh in that morning. You have to be 10 pounds within the weigh-in weight. So if you fight at 154, you have to be 164 the next morning. I don't know all the parameters of the Tank and Ryan. That fight don't have anything to do with me. I just know they fighting at 136, and I heard it's a 10 pounds rehydration clause. But the most important thing is what time that you have to weigh in. I think people love to argue and gossip without finding out all the facts. So I really don't have an opinion of that, because if Ryan gets to weigh in at 146 the morning of the fight, he has all day to rehydrate. So he can come in the ring at 155 or 154 and be fine. You know what I mean? It's the weight that you get in the ring at. That's the most important weight. The weigh-in weight is all artificial. Caleb Plant is 168 literally for about an hour of his life. All he does is just make the weight real quick and just start drinking and get right back. I'm sure David, who's bigger than him, does the same thing. So 168 don't really mean nothing. It's what you get in the ring. Obviously, you got to make weight for your fight. and rehydration is super important. But the time that you have to weigh in is the most important thing. So until anybody knows what time Ryan and Tank have to do their rehydration clause agreement, it really doesn't make any sense to argue about it. Because if Ryan got to weigh in 146, let's say 8 o'clock in the morning, he's good. They don't fight until
12, 13 hours.
12, 13 hours later. You could drink and do whatever you got to do, put all the carbs and fat and fluids in your body and, do whatever you got to do and get all of that back. You know what I mean? Now, if you got to weigh in 6 or 7 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening, that's different. You know what I mean? Then he could be compromised because if you don't get the water on your brain, it affects you taking a punch. You don't want your brain rattling up against your skull with no water or nothing to protect it. But I don't know. As far as David, they say Caleb got all of the advantages in the negotiation, but there's no rehydration clause, so he can get as big as he wants. You know what I mean? So that's just that. If the guy makes the weight, it's all fair in love and war. I know he's a bigger guy, but that's part of the game. If he struggles to make the weight, then it's a different story. So it goes both ways. It just depends on how your body, takes everything back in.